Hello everyone, welcome to another Star Wars Galactic Battlegrounds Clone Campaigns recorded game commentary session. I'm going to do something a little bit different this time. These guys are sort of like probably the early days of Star Wars, back when it came out around 2001. So these games were probably played between about 2001 and 2005. What we've got to bear in mind when looking at the standard of some of the decision making that's made is that this would be on 56k sort of, like connections, like the internet. It's terrible. I mean, if any of these guys were from America, like I know that a lot of American telecoms companies that provide internet are atrocious. So even now, compared to back then, so you got to bear in mind that these guys be playing with a lot of lag. What they would value is just probably good macro and good decision making over microing units. So at times there might be more of a passive approach from both players, just sort of, playing around those things. So without further ado, we'll get into this. This is Mame in the red on the Gungans, and Lazy Spider on the grey here in the Rebels. And the map's Space Mass. That's the one where you start with a transport. So when you start on this map, what you typically want to do is research your basic training, because you've got a little bit of downtime while you build your house, because you're going to be a 5 pop instantly, basically. Then you start building your workers. So both players have got little bits of Minox kicking about. So this sometimes happens where you get about 3 Minox that can spawn quite close to your command center, and they're absolutely worth picking up if they are close. So in Spider's situation, he had one very, very close, whereas Mame didn't have his too close. He is eating them though. This one's actually quite good there. So he went into the food processor a lot sooner than Lazy Spider here. But what you would find is that you put maybe 3 onto the Minoc, and you would get the food processor maybe with your 4th worker there. And start collecting that, because it just gives you a much more streamlined 50 food income. And you can garrison these guys when you need the food as well. So when they reach about 17, because they will eat it all the way up to 35. So there's not really going to be too much bit of action, because this has got a slightly slower T2 than most games, just because it's very limited hunt. There's never nerfs, and it's just sort of berry guys. And what you typically need with the berries is about 8 workers on them to give you 50 food per worker build cycle. So what you would look to see out of the players now is carbon processors, and then they would maybe decide what they would do with their builds. What you can really do on this map, and what's great, is transport rushes. So that's putting 5 troopers into a transport and tactically dropping them around your opponent's base. And it's very frustrating to deal with, because they would need to effectively have 5 troopers almost to defend an area or a turret. So if you manage to hit them quite early before they're prepared to deal with that, you can do a lot of damage, and you can almost, at the same time, you stop your opponent counterattacking you, because they need those troops at home. Otherwise they can't harvest resources. And even if they decide to counterattack you from a point where they're in their base, they've got the distance time, and that distance time they're not mining, right? Or you're basically mining ahead of them. So there's a lot of advantages to doing transport rushes. However, you do need to nail it right, and it is difficult to get it to hit early enough that you do that damage, because if you invest in it too early and your opponent gets to T2 and they can handle it really well, you're probably going to be behind, just because you might have gimped your economy to hit that transport rush. But you can absolutely still utilize the transport, just playing standard rush game into T2. I'm just going to speed things up a little bit, because it's a little bit slow. So you see the troop center here out of Spider. We should see one similarly out of Mame soon. We'd like to see players get about 5 farms first though. This would maybe make me think that Spider here is going to basically prioritize the transport rush over his economy here. I'm not sure what the Nova's about. I don't see any reason to be on Nova here. Got himself housed. Size of farms, that's probably about enough that he needs to actually go into tech level 2. So you can see that he is building this first before he's building his farms. So he's not going T2, he's doing the rush first, and then he's going to add on the farms, and then he's going to go T2. Whereas Mame's doing the opposite here. He's built the farms, he's playing a standard game, going into T2. So it'll be quite interesting to showcase and see how this plays out. The only thing that really throws me about what Spider's doing is he was mining this Nova a little bit. I don't know if it was an accident, or maybe he's trying to throw his opponent off while he was scouting him. And he put these this wall around his power core. He should know if his opponent's going to mount on him. And this is really not a map that anyone would really think about mounting as such, and it would be quite slow. Just because you don't have enough quick food coming in. You have to dedicate quite a lot of workers to get the food income. Whereas if you had nerfs or you had hunt, it's less workers. Plus you don't have that nursery built from the get-go. So Mame's quite in trouble here because he's lost his power core. He has to basically build it with 6 workers here before he can get troopers out. But he is T2, right? And he's thrown his transport all the way over here. He should really be picking up and applying pressure onto the carbon now. That's what you would typically like to see. But what we'll have to bear in mind is with the terrible connections people would have back then, and just how unfleshed out the game would be, it's probably quite difficult to properly micro these and focus on everything at home. Because at the same time, remember, he's got to add on farms and sort out his economy and go T2, which is a way to do. So you can see that Mame's built 2 turrets in a response because he's T2, he's ahead in that respect, and he's probably got a better economy. It's going to help him defend the transport rush, right? Because he needs to put less troops to certain points. You can rely on the turrets. And if they try to stand on the turrets, he could probably bash them down with his workers as well. Because there's only 5 troopers in the transport there. But he should be looking to apply some counter pressure. Because he's T2, he's probably got more troops out. He's got the better economy, he's just better suited to just throwing out troops and, you know, throwing them to areas. This is a pretty bad placement of the carbon here from Mame in this instance. Just because he's not properly equipped to deal with that. So I think we've got Spider hitting T2 here. He's throwing up a turret. This really worries me, just to how exposed this is. I guess he's hoping that his opponent wouldn't see it. Because it's right over there. The thing is, if you scouted this, you can see these little trees get transformed into their... or those carbon rocks get transformed into their harvesting state on the Fog of War. So he's managed to clean up most of this transport aggression now. So he's pretty stabilised, and he should probably look to do his own sort of counter-attack, which he's done there, but he seems to have lost quite a few troopers. I think both players are just going to sort of slowly macro up here, because they don't seem to be in a position to outright kill one another, or do a lot of damage to one another. You can see that we've got Mame on ore now, so he may be adding, you know, maybe one more turret to things here, or he's just looking to get on that so that he can get his tech building so he can get up to T3. He needs to get a lot more farms out though, both players do. He's trying to put on the aggression again with the transport. We can see that Spider's gone on to Nova, so he's thinking about that transition at T3 as well. So it's just like a big sort of, oh, god damn. He's got a lot of workers here on this exposed slot again. So this again has troubled Mame in this game. Just having this carbon way exposed, and Spider's really capitalised on that because he's just ran in with quite a lot of troopers, and I think he's gone down about 6 or 7 workers there. It's a big pickup. He is now fighting into a hill, which is just not going to end well for him. Didn't need to do that, didn't need to throw those units away. Probably a mistake. Could be lag, who knows. But he's throwing down his tech buildings now. His food's really climbing up there. He just doesn't have the Nova yet. If he had a spaceport, he could have built that and then just sold this. There he goes. You can see that Mame's going to land here and try to pick off a few workers. Might get 1 or 2. Not if he does that though. I'm going to stop the spaceport maybe. That'll slow down the T3 here for him because he doesn't have the Nova. And he is actually lacking the food just now as well. It looks like he's actually cut production to try and save up for it. Awful lot of carbon. If he finishes at a spaceport, he could just sell the carbon. Maybe buy 100 or 200 food, sort himself out. A lot of workers on ore here, Mame. I think he's maybe just rallying these from the command center and forgot about it. Don't think he needs all that. Just needs farm and carbon right here. Going up to Nova now, so he's thinking about T3 himself. Still putting on this pressure with these troops. Good thing about these troops is they're also scouting as well, so keeping an eye on them, keeping an eye on tabs. This is still not found. If he ran his troops round and looked for an opportunity here, he would pick up a lot of workers, just because the workers are still slow to get away. These could probably kill one per volley. Building a second turret, which I just think's quite unnecessary. A third turret, very unnecessary. Interesting. Maybe worried about T3 and strike mechs, not sure. He's got the 2 mech factories being built. He's got an awful lot of turrets in his base actually. Strike mechs are not going to trouble this man. Not a chance. It's very turtle-ish. I think if you were scouting this, right, if your opponent did this to you and you scouted this, what you would maybe look to do is just switch into air. Or just boom. Because they've invested an awful lot of their ore into these turrets. Even so, that you'd probably be better off just going for an economic approach or a tech switch into the air. And at least forcing, you know, maybe a couple more turrets, and then all of a sudden they're going to struggle to actually get a fort up if you manage to forward them, because they've spent so much ore. Managed to pick up a couple of workers here with a transport, that's great. This is also stopping him being aggressive with these early strike mechs. He has to use them in defense just now. And it's giving him time to get all his turrets up. But he is sort of boxing himself in a little bit, which might cause him problems. But he's certainly not dying. You can see that Spider here is trying to pressure again with that existing trooper force, reinforcing it with the strike mechs, but he's got the turret. He can stand next to the turret if he walks a little bit closer. It's almost a great idea, but it's just not happening. We still managed to push these workers off this carbon, so you might need to switch these over. He's got this transport here that's scouting, just being annoying as well. Definitely keeping a good idea. See him throwing out some horribly placed farms, the command center. Starting to get the boom on a bit. That extra resources. Needs to spend a lot of this carbon. He needs to get on ore as well, something he's not done this game. Maybe just sell some of this, buy some ore and just throw down quite a few command centers. Or make a forward. I'd say he'd be in a very good position to put a fort here and then just rally artillery or pummels at his opponent. Maybe not pummels because he's getting these mech destroyers out, but definitely keep the pressure on. And keep Mame in his base. This is very annoying. Though he's got this turret, you can just sit them right here. And it can't do much until a mech destroyer comes to save that situation. Still getting quite a lot of scouting knowledge just with the transports, hovering them over the opponent. You see that what Mame can do, that he's got a lot of these turrets, is don't worry about it too much, other than them standing next to it. But he could get his forces together and then just go for a push. Now you would think with rebels that you would just go for a fort like that. That's what I would certainly encourage you to do these days. With rebels, is get that fort and get those speeders out, because they're so cost effective and cause so many problems for your opponent. They're near enough imbalanced. Losing a couple of strikes there to the mech destroyer. It's quite good opportunities for micro with a transport and the mech destroyer, but maybe not on a 56k connection. You can see that he's ensuring that this area doesn't get forwarded, so he's throwing up his own fort, and it's a great spot for a fort. And he's going to be able to pressure him onto his ore here. And if you look at his other ore piles over here as well, there's a one further here. So you wouldn't want to lose this area, particularly if you were rebels, you didn't have your fort, because you absolutely want that. So both guys getting decent amount of mechs together, and you know, playing this in a sort of almost aggressive way where they're slowly booming behind it as well, which is nice. We'd like to see a couple more command centers. You typically have a problem with on this map is you see all these hills a lot of these stop you placing a command center. It's particularly menacing in team games. I find that there's only like a few choice spots that you can get a command center. It's very frustrating. So they're not wanting to fight one another, they're just sort of creating this sort of DMZ no man's land in between them. But he absolutely wants to defend this because you don't want to lose these resources, otherwise it's really going to affect you when you go into sort of T4, late T3 and try to get out those more techie units. The ones that don't just cost carbon and food, and get some of those upgrades as well. I'd like to see the Holocrons grabbed, to be honest. These rebels, there's two, very close to him. That's just free money right there. Definitely would be wanting that. So it's almost just turning into a bit more of a passive game now again. Speed up a little bit. See what kind of decisions will be made. You can see that Mame's sort of pushing in here. Horrible with the way that carbon's played. It's split his army in half, and then this half are just doing nothing. And even if they come into the fray, they're just going to hit the workers. They're not going to hit this force. This force could absolutely kill that half and then kill the other half. It's a horrible spot to be pushing in. Does mean you can hold it better though, because it's horrible for him to push in as well. If I were the aggressor though, I'd probably want to just kill this. Maybe with like an artillery or something. I definitely want artillery. A push like this, I think. Just good static, reliable damage at range. So he's getting his fort up completely unhindered here, which is a mistake I would say from Mame's part, because he's so strong in this position. And now speeders are going to be able to get out here. And it's tricky for him to even push on this side, so he's going to have to change his pushing to like this side probably. So he secured this ore. This ore's fine. It's just this and this Nova that you would maybe worry about. You can see that Mame's worried about... I mean, the fact that they're going to have two forts, right, and you can't really push in. You see what he's doing with strikes now? He's just throwing them in and looking for opportunities to snipe off workers. So he's trying to play ahead of that and get walls done as well, just to limit the amount that this can be done. Because he could do the same to Spider, however Spider's got speeders, right? And, you know, a few speeders and this just dies. So he's got to rely on walls to defend a lot of this. But he still managed to get quite a few workers here. Really frustrating for him to deal with this. So he's running his in now as well, but, you know, if he's built speeders and he sends them over, he's got two hidden in there. And they'll clean these up quite quickly. But the response does seem to be quite slow. Getting a lot of garrison time as well. I mean, that's like 20 odd workers doing nothing just now, and he's losing 3 or 4. He sent this fighter to clean it up, you know. He's still being harassed by these strikes. Here comes a mech destroyer to actually clean this up. Don't know why he won't particularly just throw out the speeders. Maybe he's just forgotten because he's had them garrisoned in there. He's also got a lot of mounties as well. Like he's just expecting maybe like a push from Mame and just to surprise him, kill the army. I think guys did value a lot of deception back then as well, like keeping things in the troop centers, particularly early T2. Keeping your troopers hidden from your opponent to maybe bait them into thinking you've got none, and then try to clean up their army that way. This poor guy, he can't get in there. So with Mame throwing a lot of his strikes out there and pulling a lot of his mech destroyers back to defend the harassment, Spider's just managed to surge for it with his mech destroyers there and just pick up a free mech destroyer, which is quite nice for him. He's got the air superiority here. Losing a mech destroyer again to the fort as well. Just don't want to be pushing in. He needs to keep these guys out here. They're just going to get sniped. 2 strikes die. You managed to get this wall up here as well, so the only really point that you could enter this boy's base now is through these turrets on this fort. So it's quite good for him, but he is sort of boxing himself out of a lot of resources. Maybe this one should be over here. Keep all that. So you can see the Spider's looking to go T4. He's still... He's doing okay-ish, the economy. Can still use 30 odd workers. I think Mame's probably got the better boom right now, but Spider's definitely got great enough harassment to sort of keep up with him here. And he's having to rely on a lot of these anti-air units. I don't know why he's building this turret. They're not anti-air turrets. He's not a big fan of the anti-air turret, I guess. I think an added concern about spending all this ore on turrets is that come T4, and if this gets into a push situation, he can't afford shields. Or his opponent can, and shields are huge. Right, we can see that these Mounties have been unleashed from the fort, and he's just keeping them back, looking for an opportunity to try and just smash Mame's army here. He's hit T4 now. We get these up to advanced, get them a bit more upgrades. See that Mame's trying to harass again. He's built more air bases as well, maybe just to throw out a lot more fighters. He's actually going for A-Wings. A-Wings are monstrous, and if you don't have turrets, they're going to be even more monstrous, so that's a great shout there. Maybe a little bit filthy, as the A-Wing is another very strong unit, especially for its cost effectiveness. With how well he can defend his forward here, he's throwing out the cannons and he's just starting to chip away at Mame here, because Mame's not T4 yet. He doesn't really have a response to these cannons other than just throwing his units forward and shooting them. And this is actually quite horrible for him. If you think about how taxed this man is for ore, he's now repairing this and spending ore to repair it effectively for free. As soon as a second cannon comes out, I wouldn't recommend ever repairing, because it's just going to die. One cannon, yes, if you can, keep it alive for a bit and then push. He's trying to run forward and maybe snipe the cannon, but it is under a shield. He's lacking a bit of range there, and this position as well just makes it so difficult. And if he walks too far forward, he's going to get annihilated by the Mount Destroyers and the Mounties. So, tricky situation for him. Second cannon will probably be coming out at some point. I imagine he's on his way to T4. He's really just building up mech destroyers here. Interestingly, he will have the better ground force, being gun guns with all the upgrades that they get from mechs. But if Spider plays it right with his harassment tools and his air superiority, he can absolutely deal with that army. We don't see a lot of strike mechs out either, so they're getting really mucked up with lag there. It's unfortunate, because I feel like they should be on them there, and maybe killing 3 or 4 more. But they are really susceptible with the way that the units move when it lags. So there's a second cannon. Fort's going to go down, and that's going to really open up this position for Spider here to push in further. And imagine Mame probably feels like he's on a bit of a timer here. Maybe needs to get one sort of big force and just, use that sort of ground superiority and just overwhelm what Spider's got here. You can see him pushing in. It almost feels like a mistake to commit now that the fort's dead. He did snipe one of the cannons, but what are these Mounties doing? They're just dying for free. Maybe on stand ground there, it didn't look like lag. That just looks like a straight up mistake. Both players losing quite a bit there. It looks like he's spending a lot of his time microing the A-Wings around his opponent's base, and he's definitely picking up a lot of kills. Just because he doesn't have any turrets to deal with it. He's got to rely on very slow anti-air troopers and anti-air mobiles. And these things are so fast, like they could outposition any unit that is, built to deal with them. Crying a little bit in the chat about A-Wings, understandable. Like, look at the range of them, 6 range. And they're just 2-shot workers. It's pretty disgusting. But, all's fair in love and war, I guess, especially in a 1v1 like this. I'm not sure if this one was like a tournament game, maybe, like back in the day, so, because I do feel like they're putting in a lot of effort into this game, being quite tenacious. Because this does feel like something that would make you maybe quit a bit. But if you've got the discipline and the tenacity to just rebuild your workers, you'll be okay. Because at the end of the day, he will have the better mechs, right? He's already got 20 HP on these. He's got a couple more War Center upgrades as well. He's invested a bit more. But what he is starting to feel the effects of is a lack of carbon. So he would want to snake around here and pick these resources up because he can't take anything in the middle. I would say that Spider's probably got a better map split. However, he has lost his ground forces. This is quite a weak forward now. But Mame doesn't have anything that kills buildings, and he's lost his fort, and he probably can't afford another fort. He would need some artillery or some pummels, maybe. I'd like to see pummels. Pummels and the mech destroyers. I think that would be quite good here. He'd be able to protect them quite well, just with how quickly he can gun down the other mech destroyers. Still not grab these holocrons. I wish he would. It's almost gotten a bit quiet here. He's maybe wondering why is he not quit. I just A-winged the absolute life out of him. Maybe just calculating his next decision and what he should do, you know, unit comp wise. I think definitely he should just stay on the mech destroyers and the mounties. Maybe a lot of speeders as well, because I don't see any anti-air here really helping this army. Speeders would be huge. And he could always pull this around the base as well with the A-wings because he's not committed to turrets. So it's funny that the light turret spam has really undermined Mame all game. It just makes it seem like it really wasn't the best of decisions because it's just caused them problems from start to finish here. Would definitely be quite good. Just pull your opponent's anti-air all around the base and then use the speeders and look for opportunities to just trim this army. Because as long as this doesn't get into like a big ball of death, it's not really going to be able to deal with the forward and it's not going to phase him too much. Like the lower amount of mech destroyers versus the lower amount, the upgrades mean a little bit less, right? But when it becomes big balls of them, it's going to be huge. He's going to kill even less every trade. Because those stats add up. You see he's snaking his workers over here, grabbing those resources, he's fine. Mame has to push over here as well. Very exposed, and the further he has to go out as well, he can't afford anti-air turrets. I mean, how is this going to get to here? In time. These are all going to die. I'll speed it up a bit because there really is a lot of sitting around happening. Pushing in again. He's at least got a shield now, but there's another fort. Throw out some cannons, and if you put some cannons here, very well protected by the carbon. Just they'll get free hits on that. Just moving these round, maybe to that spot. Get them in. Oh, very nicely protected there, and then that shield dies for free. He can't repair it. Probably can't replace it. He's a poor guy. Just dies so quickly, and then these just have to run into horrible, horrible fort fire. Just sort of boxing him in. Another shield as well, expanding his fronts here. But he is getting this big ball of mech destroyers up. And they've got upgrades. 193 health. To 175. 7 plus 7, 704. So maybe just going to go for it. Need a bit more anti-air with those boys though. Don't want these getting free kills. I think Mame, or rather Spider, needs some mounties here for this. Not a lot of strike mechs, some mounties and he's absolutely going to win this. A lot of mech destroyers out though, and he does have the shield, so... Shield's pretty huge, and will disregard a lot of those upgrades, just because you're effectively doubling your HP. A few more farms here. There's a lot of Nova. I do feel like Spider could be picking up a lot of this Nova, and these Holos, and... just throwing in the odd couple of Jedi. What would be big as well is an air cruiser in this position. You can see that he's got repeater trooper tech, which is good. Rebels have good troopers. Should absolutely be utilising that. Big ball here, but this building's going to muck it up a little bit. Here's the air cruiser. That's what I was liking. That's what I need to see. This boy is playing to win, right? He's doing all the dick moves. But Rebels are not the strongest on the ground, so Can respect that. This is a great way to play. To really mix in the units, different text there, and just make it really difficult to deal with for your opponent. And he's just slowly strangling his opponent as well, with all these forts, these shields, and then this air cruiser as well. It's going to punish him for even running in here. And it's going to get a lot of free shots as well, because he doesn't have a turret that can really outrange it. There's what, 8 range on these guys? 12 on this. So you can really just chip away and take pot shots at him. And what it also does is just bank him more time to just eat up the rest of the map. Because as soon as we hit T4, it's just felt like Mame's on a timer. He's dropping some mech destroyers for a bit of harassment over here. He's got these speeders as well. He really is. Like, he looks like he's trying to strangle him. This is all just a big hand around Mame's neck. And even here, he's making sure he doesn't come down and get this carbon. It does have these assault mechs out, which do a ton of damage. If he had a few masters here, he could just be converting these. I think a couple of masters converting these at range would just, that'd be the end of it. He couldn't even afford bounty hunters, because he's got no forts. I'd like to see this pushing forward a little bit and going for another shot. It does have managed to get a shield out though, maybe sold resources for that. And he's just harassing him again with the air. Just adding to the strangulation effort. You see Mame getting frustrated, pushing forward. Here comes the air cruiser, bam, you know, has a lot of damage. A lot of them with very low health, just getting chipped away. Oh, he's finally picked up those holocrons. Running around the base, looking for windows. A lot of his population as well is just bloody anti-air units. It's just really, he's probably popped actually. Oh, maybe not. Probably all the workers he's lost. That's an awful lot of an investment that he's got there. You know, if that was invested in units, in like more mech destroyers, he could be pushing quite hard. He could maybe push 2 fronts, you know. He's only got this little gang here, but this could be like another army, about the size of that. Pushing forward here. He's built the assault mechs, which I would say is a poor decision here because they don't get much upgrades. It's just a bad investment there. As I said, better spent on Jedis, I think. You know, they got the shield on them. You don't really want to be fighting him with the same units when you've got less upgrades. He's maybe going to look for some shots in the anti-air mobiles here. Mame's losing a lot. Yeah, that's just frustrating for him. Just kind of stuck here. He's not really got any way to clean up these forwards. The attrition rate is just too high. And he's not really got much to replace it, really. A lot of respect here for Spider for the way that he's played this game. It's really good decision making, capitalising on, you know, some of Mame's poor decision making. More assault mechs coming out here. They can certainly deal with forts in the forward, but he's just not got much to do with this. He has managed to get the range on these to try and maybe snipe this off. What I like about Spider as well is that he's not overcommitted with the air cruisers. He's only built the one. But I would love to see some Jedi Masters out of him. Just convert like 3 or 4 of these and it's just the army's done. Be super frustrating as well. Even harassing with them as well would do a lot to him. Not sure what he's going to do here. He's just sort of chilling, building as much units as he can. A lot more harassment coming out from Spider again. Quite a long game this. Definitely an excellent, excellent way to win here though, starving your opponent out. I like it. Still a couple of hollows you could be grabbing. But sacking some workers there that he doesn't need. I don't really think there's anything that Mame could really do. I'd say what he maybe could have done earlier is just run through the right hand side, then build a forward there, or I wouldn't recommend him doing it now, to be honest, because there's all these mounties out. I think if he went out into the open, it's very easy for Spider to get a surround on him, and then just trade with the army. Mame doesn't want to trade with this. He wants to kill for free with the range on these and the damage output. He's running out of carbon. Few troop centres here, maybe to add on some more pressure and just make sure he doesn't advance his workers any further forward. He's looking for little angles here as well, chip things off, increase that level of strangulation. That was just bad. Maybe lag, poor formation. I guess if you got lag, you should maybe just have them unstaggered in the first place, then run them in on patrol. Mame's run out of carbon. He's running over here. He wants to eat this. We've got these speeders here that's they're gonna bash that power core down. Anti-air a bit late, but then you got the mounties to kill the anti-air. Oh dear. He can't afford to replace those. He's just not gonna get any of that carbon. Just sort of sitting here. Let's speed it up. I'd say he's done. He's chipping away, he's just microing these now. This is all he's really doing. It looks like he's going for something here. A few more assault mechs. Not under shield here. I don't know why he's particularly got his army in an area that he's not got under shield. I think he could afford it as well. See that there's more speeders kicking about. Just cutting them off, even from his farms. He can't afford to replace them. If he loses the workers mining them, it's just horrible for him. I think this is just pretty much his army for the rest of the game. This is all he's got. You see these troopers running in now as well, just doing a little bit of damage. He's not like overbuilding. He's keeping a lot of population free. Don't know if this is intentional. Be quite smart if it is, because then he can absolutely reinforce his army with the right units that he needs. Still throwing out a lot of these assault mechs. I don't know if they really, at this point, just think assault mechs are like the most godly unit of all time or something. You know, I think they have their places. And I don't rate rebel ones. I wish each and every one of these, which is about the same cost as a Jedi, was a Jedi. Oh, they're just dying for free. That's a difference of 120 HP. Quite a lot. A few more speeders kicking about. He's getting all this carbon now. I think that's probably the last carbon on the map. He's not replaced any of his farms. So, interestingly, they're both technically starved out, but he's got these holocrons, right? And I think he's starting to pick them up. Pick up the other ones as well. And there's one over here. So it comes to a point where you're both starved of resources, but you've got holocrons, you're just going to be very well off, really. Be the greatest value that you would ever get out of holos. Let's have a little bit of carbon coming in. At a distance. Rationing it. Another shield coming up here. If he runs up and he just snipes it. He didn't move his army. He just sniped that. That's good. That's a good spot from Mame there. He's prodding again, just looking to see what he can do with these units. I think another thing that Spider could maybe do is just get a lot of bombers and just wipe this army with those as well. Oh, some volleys there. He's just lost half of his mech destroyers to that for one assault mech. I see him repairing them as well. He's getting his maximum amount of value out of these units. He's got all the holocrons. Mame saying standard. Oh no. They've left it on standard win conditions, so if he gets all the holocrons, a timer will start ticking down that if it gets to 0, he'll win the game. You see that Mame's actually been forced to go over here and try and kill this this position. He should be moving forward here and try to base trade him almost. But it'd be a terrible base trade for Mame on that point. So yeah, he's pushing forward. He's going to take the shield down. I think Mame's worried that they're all in here, but he's actually moved them over here now. It's really annoying this actually for Mame because it's almost effectively forced him to make this decision. So he's actually transporting his army to where the holocron. Oh, and he's just lost 2 transports full of I'm assuming assault mechs. He's managed to get 5 out though, and they will kill this. So he's stopped the countdown, but he's had to trade away like so many units there for free, basically, because of the win condition, which is horrible. I hope this wasn't some sort of GBG tournament, to be honest, if it was like standard difficulty, or standard win condition rather. Because that's really horrible what that's forced him to do. You can't replace these, he's just sort of fucked really. And then he just puts them back in a new one, so what can you do? You can't break it, you can't trade, and you can't keep transporting his army over and killing it, so I'd say the Spider's won this. He's trying again, but he's got units like he's just guarding it. Yeah, that's it. GG. What a game. Really enjoyed that. Just a lot of just like valuing good decision making, as I said before, in macro from both players. There's a struggle to sort of kill each other in the early game. But I'd say that's just because it's very difficult to properly utilise a lot of the early units. So, as always, if there's anything that you liked about this video, please leave a comment. Anything you would like to see from the channel or in future, please leave a comment as well. And I'll try to release as many videos as I can. Okay? So, take care. All the best. Bye-bye.